And earlier we have Brett, who spoke to Stephen Nagy, and he's a visiting fellow at the Japan Institute for International Affairs and Politics and International Studies professor at the International Christian University in Tokyo. Nagy is also senior fellow at the McDonald Lawyer Institute and fellow at the Canadian Global Affairs Institute.
Professor, as the AUKUS meeting just concluded in Australia, how is the AUKUS Security Alliance working towards containing or preventing Chinese expansionism in the region?
Well, AUKUS is a three-part agreement. The first part is about AI and quantum computing cooperation. The second part is cybersecurity and hypersonic missiles. And the third part has to do with deterrence capabilities, in particular nuclear-powered submarines, which provide long-term, deep deterrence capabilities between the United States, Australia, and the UK. The idea behind the enhanced deterrence capabilities is really to push back against Chinese assertive behavior in the East China Sea, South China Sea, and across the Taiwan Straits. It's meant to punch a hole in the anti-access, anti-denial missile systems that China has invested heavily in across the Taiwan Straits. And it's really meant to bring more stability to the region by demonstrating that this partnership is anchored to the region. I must say, though, that the nuclear-powered submarines and the deterrence capabilities that it brings to the region is important, but so is the cooperation in terms of AI, quantum computing, cybersecurity, and hypersonic missile systems. The three partners understand that these technologies will shape the region's economies, the relationship between government and citizens, and the new technologies that will emerge, in particular military strategy and others. So it's a comprehensive agreement that has a deterrent side, but also a proactive side that's going to try and shape the rules and the economies of the region going forward.
Professor, you talked about AI, and Taiwan has been seen as an expert in this area. Do you feel Taiwan could contribute directly to these conversations with AUKUS?
Well, without Taiwan's semiconductors, those top-tier semiconductors that provide the platform for the calculations that go on in AI or artificial intelligence technologies, the partnership wouldn't be as effective. So in many ways, Taiwan's role in being a stable provider of top-tier technologies such as semiconductors makes it a critical partner in some of the discussions and some of the planning for the region. I foresee Taiwan's role is working with like-minded countries and partners like Japan, South Korea, the United States, Australia, and perhaps the Netherlands in terms of safeguarding the semiconductor production technologies and the human capital behind that. I see Taiwan as an important partner in terms of continue to develop the top-tier semiconductors. And three, really enhancing its own domestic abilities to keep the top-tier human capital that Taiwan has developed in its semiconductor industries at home and not being poached by nearby countries to help develop their semiconductor industries.
Speaking of Japan, you're an expert in the country and based there. How do you see Japan work with AUKUS and other U.S. allies in deterring Chinese aggression towards Taiwan?
Well, Japan continues to send the strongest of signals to Beijing that a forced reunification is not something that it's willing to accept. And it continues to talk about peace and stability across the Taiwan Straits. And it's investing in enhancing its own defense and deterrence capabilities, as we've seen in the recent national security strategy that was released in December 2022. In that national security strategy, it talked about the acquisition of 500 or more Tomahawk missiles to be used as a deterrent. It stresses the importance of Taiwan in its security calculus, and we've seen it use its diplomatic resources to really put Taiwan on the map. And the G7 statement that just came out is a very good example of that, where Japan, working with the other G7 members, have explicitly said that Taiwan's future is of interest and it's of global importance, and that Taiwan is a global public good that they want to ensure remains peaceful and that the issues across the Taiwan Strait remain stable.
These are encouraging signs indeed. But do you feel that Japan is doing enough given how fast the PLA is mobilizing?
Well, Japan has constitutional limitations in terms of what it can do with its self-defense forces. There are questions of whether Taiwan or Japan can directly engage in a conflict that potentially could occur between Taiwan and China, and how they would engage. These discussions really are important starting points for how Japan thinks about preserving the peace and stability across the Taiwan Straits. It values Taiwan because of its democratic institutions, their history, the good relations that Taiwan has continued to develop with Japan, but also it understands Taiwan's importance in terms of security within the region and being part of the first island chain, and of course its role in semiconductors. So Japan has a lot of interest with regards to Taiwan, and I think that it's going to work hard with the United States, Australia, Europe, and as I mentioned, the G7 partners and more to try and send the strongest of message and signals to Beijing that really peace and stability and a peaceful evolution to the relationship between Taiwan and China will be the best way forward in terms of maintaining peace and stability across the region.
Japan has also recently spoken to another neighbor of Taiwan, the Philippines, in terms of security and with increased cooperation. How much of a deterrent will this be to Beijing?
Well, the Philippines is a platform for the projection of power of the United States. And I think that's how we should understand the Philippines. We also should understand the Philippines as being an important partner in ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Studies Nations, and its ability to work seamlessly with those countries to bring them on board to try and develop a code of conduct within the region will be important in terms of dealing with South China Sea related issues and China's assertive policy. But I don't think we should really expect the Philippines really to be a significant military partner. Rather, it's a logistics hub. It's a place where perhaps Japan and the United States, and maybe Australia, perhaps India, will be able to use as a platform for the projection of defensive power within the region to ensure that China doesn't use a might of right approach to solving the challenges that exist within the region.
Given that there seems to be rising tensions between both sides, the US allied side and also the Chinese side, how do you feel Taiwan should work with its like-minded allies and partners to make sure that China doesn't make the first move vis-a-vis a Chinese invasion on Taiwan?
Well, discipline, discipline, and discipline. And I think if we look at polls in Taiwan, the majority of Taiwanese people are happy for the status quo to continue. Very, very, very few people really advocate for the reunification with the mainland anytime soon. But they understand that their independence, their political system, their freedom to express themselves is all at risk. And as a result, I think a disciplined approach to messaging about what kind of political entity Taiwan is, the strength of its democratic institutions, and how it shares many values and institutions with countries like Japan, South Korea, Australia, countries in the EU, Canada, the United States. This disciplined in messaging is going to be really important. At the same time, I think that Taiwan does need to enhance its deterrence capabilities. The Ukrainians, in their defense against Russia's invasion, has provided a lot of lessons, not only for Taiwanese, but how friends and allies of Taiwan can bolster the defense capabilities of Taiwan so that they can deter a potential forced reunification with China. These are important, but I think ultimately the Taiwanese people are going to have to think about what is in their interests. And in their interest is really maintaining that peace and stability across the Taiwan Straits, to not be the next Hong Kong, or not to be under the control of the Communist Party of China.